Kevin opened his eyes, blinking them, disorientated. He awoke with the gift of a headache like a hangover, as the blaring car alarm in his head was having a tantrum he couldn't bribe into solace. He started to recollect the events that happened. Last thing he remembered clearly were those glaring headlights from Eric's car, eerily getting closer and closer before his inevitable demise. The impact of the vehicle hitting him at the time felt as though he must have done 1,000 belly flops into a very shallow pool. Yet despite the collision, his body currently pulsated merely with an ache of diminishing annoyance. Performing a swift examination by traveling with his right hand over his body, Kevin was relieved to find that everything was physically in its right place. He started to question the events that just happened to him. Did those events just happen to him? How was he still alive? Was he alive? If so, where was he now? Everything looked different now. The room in which he found himself was unfamiliar and sparsely furnished like a freshman dormitory, mostly containing the basics: a bed which he was lying on, a small dresser, and a desk in the left-hand corner towards the entrance of the door. As he started to stand with his bed and move towards the middle of the room, the events of the previous evening slowly started to come back to him. Put it together, Kay. Everything is white. I just got ran over by a car, so where else could I be? If this is heaven, it was nothing like how people depicted it in the movies. No velvet clouds, no harps, no angels. Heaven can wait. It wasn't. Once he gathered his bearings, he turned the knob and then opened the door outward to exit his domicile. There, Kevin found himself in a white tunic, walking a lengthy corridor that, to him, seemed clinical and antiseptic. The hallway contained many doors on each side and extended for a long while in either direction. At the end of the corridor was the choice between a sharp left and a sharp right. Kevin made the left turn and found himself in what appeared to be some sort of recreation room in an old folks retirement center. The room was full of dead celebrities. Kevin thought he saw Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly dancing to the music of John Cage and Sun Ra, both sitting in front of a grand Steinway piano, acting as if the room were their own private ballroom. He also thought he saw Kurt Cobain playing an intense game of cards with Lucille Ball. In fact, they were playing reruns of her beloved television show on Earth in the background on mute. Malcolm X was playing ping pong with Benjamin Franklin. The room smelled like grapefruit and Bengay. Jimi Hendrix was giving guitar lessons to Marcus Garvey. Van Gogh had found his ear. Maybe Eric was still messed up from having just died, but it looked to him like Nikola Tesla was making out with Thomas Edison, as if all those years of competitive animosity were simply a reaction to unrequited sexual tension. Coltrane sounded like he was in the right place. Sid Vicious was on a rocking chair, in battered leather pants and boots with no shirt, wearing his signature snarl and knitting a sweater. Einstein and Mark Twain were playing chess, and Virginia Woolf wouldn't stop smiling. When he entered the room, everyone simultaneously looked up from whatever they were doing. When they didn't recognize him, everyone in the room just as easily went back to what they were doing as if nothing happened. Only Charlie Chaplin approached him, but he wasn't much for conversation. To say the least, it was awkward. Guess there's no love for the newly departed. If this is heaven, what is hell? Kevin asked aloud to no one in particular. Waiting for an eternity in line at the DMV, kiddo, said Sinatra. It was excessively bright for indoors. It seemed as though the whole room was under harsh fluorescent lighting. The sun was seated forever at the height of a perpetual early late spring afternoon, which coated the room from huge floor-to-ceiling windows. It was nice, but it still felt very odd and old to him. Kevin felt so out of place in heaven. He wasn't sure what he was expecting, but after such a limited time in that room with all those dead folks, he knew but didn't know Kevin was becoming aware of one fact. He knew that he had to get out. Kevin had to find a way to escape from heaven.